Welcome to Inner Love Trauma. My name is Charmaine and I am a trauma-informed life coach. Today, I want to share with you a story about a narcissist smear campaign. Narcissists are known for their manipulative tactics, and one of the most destructive ones is the smear campaign. This is when the narcissist spreads lies and rumors about their victim in an attempt to destroy their reputation and credibility. The effects of a smear campaign can be devastating for the victim, causing them to feel isolated, ashamed, and alone. It can impact their relationships, career, and even their mental health. In this story, we will follow the journey of a victim of a narcissist smear campaign and explore how they navigated the challenging and painful experience. We will also discuss the steps that victims can take to protect themselves from further harm and begin the healing process. Join me as we delve into this important topic and shed light on the devastating effects of narcissistic abuse. In addition to the smear campaign, narcissists often recruit people into their circle of influence, much like a cult or gang. They use charm, manipulation, and flattery to gain the trust and loyalty of others. Once they have a group of followers, they use them to bolster their own ego and to do their bidding. These followers often become enablers and will go to great lengths to protect the narcissist and cover up their bad behavior. In many cases, these followers may not even realize that they are being manipulated and controlled. The narcissist may use tactics such as love bombing, gaslighting, and triangulation to keep their followers under their spell. It is important to recognize the signs of a narcissistic leader and to be wary of those who try to recruit you into their circle. By understanding the tactics that narcissists use, you can protect yourself and avoid becoming a victim of their abuse. In this story, we will also explore the dynamics of the narcissistic cult-like group and the devastating effects it can have on those who become entangled in its web. Join me as we delve deeper into this complex and troubling topic.
Chapter 1. The Smear Campaign. Janet had always been a kind and caring person. She worked hard to provide for her family and was always there for her friends when they needed her. But things took a turn for the worse when she crossed paths with a group of narcissists who saw her as a threat to their own egos. It all started innocently enough. Janet met John at a networking event and they struck up a conversation. John was charming and charismatic, and Janet found herself drawn to him. They exchanged contact information and John began to reach out to her more frequently, inviting her to social events and business meetings. At first, Janet was thrilled to be included in John's inner circle. She felt like she was finally making progress in her career and her personal life. But as time went on, she began to notice that something was off about John and his friends. They seemed to thrive on drama and conflict, and Janet found herself getting caught up in their toxic dynamic. They would talk behind each other's backs and spread rumors about people they didn't like. Janet didn't want to be a part of it, but she didn't know how to extricate herself from the situation. The narcissists, led by John, began to subtly undermine Janet's confidence and make her doubt her own abilities. They would give her backhanded compliments or criticize her in ways that seemed almost reasonable. Janet didn't realize what was happening at first, but the constant drip of negativity began to take its toll. As time went on, the attacks became more overt. John and his cohorts began to spread rumors about Janet, making wild accusations about her character and behavior. They told lies to anyone who would listen, painting Janet as an untrustworthy and immoral person. Janet tried to defend herself, but it was like trying to stop a tidal wave. The more she pushed back, the more vicious the attacks became. The narcissists had a way of twisting everything she said or did, turning it against her and using it as evidence of her supposed flaws. Chapter 2. The Fallout. As the smear campaign continued, Janet's life began to unravel. Her friends turned against her, believing the lies that John and his minions were spreading. Her children started to question her judgment and refused to spend time with her. Janet fell into a deep depression, feeling isolated and alone. She couldn't understand why this was happening to her and why people who had once been so close to her were now treating her like a pariah. The narcissists seemed to relish in Janet's suffering. They would make snide comments or openly mock her in public, enjoying the power they had over her. Janet felt trapped, unable to escape from the toxic dynamic she had unwittingly become a part of. She tried to ignore the attacks and carry on with her life, but it was like a dark cloud was hanging over her head. Everywhere she went, she felt like people were staring at her, judging her, and finding her lacking. Janet's depression deepened, and she started to withdraw from the world. She stopped going to social events and started avoiding her friends. She felt like she had lost everything that mattered to her. Chapter 3: The Escape. One day, Janet had had enough. She realized that she couldn't keep fighting against the narcissists and their lies. She needed to create a diversion, something that would allow her to escape and start over. With the help of a few trusted friends, Janet made a plan. She staged a public event that would draw the attention of the narcissists and give her and her children a chance to slip away unnoticed. It was risky, but Janet knew that she had to take the chance if she wanted to reclaim her life. The plan was carefully orchestrated to ensure Janet's safety and the safety of her children. Janet's friends created a fake social media account, pretending to be someone interested in the narcissist's business ventures. They knew that the narcissists would take the bait and agree to meet with this person in person. On the day of the meeting, Janet and her children packed their bags and left their home. They made sure to cover their tracks and leave no clues behind. Janet's friends, who had been monitoring the meeting, signaled to her when it was time to make their move. As the narcissists were distracted by the meeting, Janet and her children slipped away unnoticed. They got into a waiting car and drove away from the scene, leaving the narcissists behind. Janet and her children had no idea where they were going next, but they knew that they had to keep moving. They drove for hours, stopping only to rest and regroup. Janet felt a sense of freedom that she hadn't felt in months. She knew that they were finally safe from the narcissist's influence. Once they had reached a safe location, Janet and her children began the process of healing and recovery. They sought therapy and support groups to help them cope with the trauma they had endured. Janet also cut off all contact with the narcissists and the people who had participated in the smear campaign against her. Over time, Janet and her children began to rebuild their lives. They made new friends and started to rediscover the joy and happiness that they had lost. Janet learned a valuable lesson about the danger of narcissists and how important it is to surround herself with positive, supportive people. In the end, Janet emerged from the experience stronger and more resilient than ever. She had overcome a great challenge and proved to herself and her children that they could survive and thrive no matter what obstacles they faced. Chapter 4: Recovery. After escaping the grasp of the narcissistic cult, Janet and her children were free from the constant fear and anxiety that had plagued them for months. However, they still had a long road ahead of them as they began their journey of healing and recovery. Janet knew that the first step in their recovery was to seek professional help. She found a therapist who specialized in helping victims of narcissistic abuse and made appointments for herself and her children. The therapist helped them process their emotions and trauma and gave them tools to cope with their anxiety and depression. Janet also reached out to support groups for survivors of narcissistic abuse. She found comfort in sharing her story with others who had gone through similar experiences. The support group gave her a sense of community and validation that she wasn't alone in her struggles. As part of her recovery, Janet also made a conscious effort to rebuild her self-esteem and confidence. The narcissists had torn her down and made her doubt herself, but Janet refused to let them continue to control her thoughts and emotions. She began to engage in activities that she enjoyed and took pride in her accomplishments, no matter how small they were. Janet also focused on rebuilding her relationship with her children. The smear campaign had turned her children against her, but Janet knew that she could regain their trust and love. She spent quality time with them, listening to their concerns and reassuring them that they were safe and loved. As time passed, Janet and her children began to see the progress they had made. They were no longer controlled by the narcissist's manipulation and lies. They had regained their independence and were free to live their lives without fear. Janet knew that the recovery process would be ongoing, but she felt hopeful for the first time in months. She had escaped the narcissistic cult and had emerged stronger and more resilient. She had learned to trust herself and surround herself with positive, supportive people who uplifted and validated her. In the end, Janet and her children had proven to themselves that they were survivors, and they were ready to face whatever challenges came their way with strength and courage.
Thank you for joining me today on Inner Love Trauma as we explored the topic of narcissistic smear campaigns and cult-like recruitment tactics. It is important to remember that if you are a victim of narcissistic abuse, you are not alone. There is help available, and you can take steps to protect yourself and begin the healing process. Remember to trust your instincts, seek support from trusted friends and family members, and consider working with a professional therapist or counselor who is trained in dealing with narcissistic abuse. I hope that this video has provided you with valuable insights and information that can help you on your journey to healing and recovery. Remember to prioritize your own well-being and self-care, and know that you deserve to live a life free from abuse and manipulation. Thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best on your path to healing and inner love.